Today on Locked On Red Wings, it's showtime.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And Scotty, we got a few things on our docket in this episode. Obviously, most notably, and I think it's probably best if we lead off with it so we don't bury the lead. Patrick Kane is confirmed to be having his season debut with the Detroit Red Wings tonight by the time you're listening to this against the San Jose Sharks. Very exciting. We'll talk about where he will slot in the lineup, who he's going to be playing with. Things of that nature, how much he'll be playing. Derek Lalonde spoke to all of that in the media availability on Tuesday or Wednesday, rather. I wouldn't say post-practice because they didn't have a practice on Wednesday. So we don't know what the lines are going to look like necessarily either. That's going to be up in the air. Also going to be talking about Jake Walman getting fined for his high sticking at near the end of the game against the Buffalo Sabres. And then, of course, previewing the San Jose Sharks. But Scotty, as I said, probably should lead off with the biggest news of the day, and that is the confirmation that Patrick Kane is having his season debut against the San Jose Sharks Thursday night at LCA.
Yeah, man. Everybody's rightfully excited. We'll see. We'll see. I have so many questions, more so than answers. I feel like, people are tuning in and are have similar questions than what we're going to ask. And I'm just not sure anybody really knows a lot of the answers to all of the questions that I have. I mean, we obviously have a lot of questions about playing time. We have questions about line mates. We have questions about like how gradual or steep is the uptick in minutes going to be? Like if it's, if he's producing a lot, like how does that change? Like how quickly you give him more minutes? Special teams, huge question, right? Is he going to be on the power play at all early on? Is he going to be on power play 2? Is he going to peak at power play 2? Is he going to end up being on the first peeper? No one knows anything. And that's kind of part of the fun, I think.
Yeah, it is. And we do know definitively from Derek Lalonde, rather, that Patrick Kane will be playing with Alex DeBrincat. I would imagine we saw practice lines, Monday, that he was slotted on the second line with Joe Veleno as the center. At the time, we were speculating that Joe Veleno was centering that line because of the fact that JT Compher took a maintenance day. But now with the information from Derek Lalonde that they're going to try and rotate the centers, or I guess figure out what centers work best, there is a possibility that Joe Veleno is the center of that line. I'm really curious, exactly what center combos they're going to be trying to work with Patrick Kane. I imagine Dylan Larkin will get a look. So that will be your top line at some point during the game. JT Compher, Joe Veleno, maybe even Andrew Kopp. I mean, outside of that, I don't think you really would see a Christian Fischer center that line or a Michael Rasmussen. But those are the most viable options for the Detroit Red Wings, is those three. Most notably, probably Compher and Larkin as the most prominent centers. But Raymond and Larkin have looked so good together that maybe they don't risk breaking up that chemistry and give Veleno and Compher more increased looks.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that, for Raymond has really been under a microscope for the last calendar year now.
He's been killing it this season, though.
Yeah, agreed. And that's my point, is I think he's really taken a step forward. I think that he's been a fantastic line mate to Dylan Larkin, especially, and then really whoever has been on the other wing. I think that early on, as you said, and as we've talked about, you just want Kane to be as comfortable as possible out on the ice, right? You're not trying to. So my point being, they're obviously going to put him with DeBrincat a lot early on, just because that's a familiar face. They've obviously had a lot of success together, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think that there is an argument, if he is healthy and if he continues to trend in the right direction and he looks solid in his producing, I think there's a definite argument for moving him up to the top line at some point. But I also think that the reason that they moved DeBrincat down to the second line was to spread out the scoring a little bit and put threats all throughout the lineup and not just have that, really good top line and then subpar, we'll call it, or not as effective, maybe is better, because it hasn't really been subpar, but not as dangerous, bottom nine. And so I think that even if he is really producing, you also kind of have the argument of like, oh, do you really want to mess up a good thing that you have going for you? And if the top line continues to produce as is, then you might as well just let that be. And that's, again, if you even get remotely close to as good as we think Patrick Kane could be, you're talking about a pretty legit and dangerous and I think solidified playoff top six.
Yeah, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, really, on that. If Patrick Kane can come back and be, I mean, he talked about it. He was hurt ever since 2020, right? In the article Emily Kaplan had wrote about the interview that she had with him. He talked about how he's been hurt ever since the bubble year, since 2020, really. Yeah. And last year put up 57 points. The year prior to that, he put up 92 points, all while he was still hurt. Like, that's an impressive clip, even while injured. So if he can come back and he's feeling better than that, even if he's not 100% Patrick Kane, he's going to provide an offensive punch to that top six regardless. The biggest question marks is, how fast can he be? How durable is he? But we're going to find that out. And that brings us to the next question, is like, how much do we expect him to play in the first game? Derek Lowen also said that they're going to be very choosy about where and when they deploy Patrick Kane. I imagine they're going to deploy him, probably trying to pull him mostly on like offensive zone starts, as well as power play like that. But I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm trying to, throw this out there for Red Wings fans. Like, don't expect him to play like 18 minutes a night. Don't expect him to get Dylan Larkin minutes. Like, he might just get 10 minutes tomorrow night, because they're going to be very careful about his deployment, because he's coming off of such a major injury and he hasn't played, full speed hockey game since May, when the Rangers were in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is going to be a game where the entire training staff is right behind the bench, and every time he ends a shift, it's, you okay? You good? How you feeling, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be people in his ear all night long. And yeah, man, it's exciting, but it also, I mean, I think it's important to kind of throw that reminder out there of like, we have no idea how he's going to look. He's not going to get a ton of minutes. I would be really shocked if he got like legitimate top 6 minutes. And that kind of leads me into the game planning and the strategy of these first. I mean, we don't know how many games that could even be, right? Does it take 3 games for him to get fully acclimated, or does it take a month? And those are probably both like two sides of the extreme, but like, you know what I mean? Like there's a wide range of how long it takes until everybody himself, coaching staff, fan base, front office, et cetera, is like comfortable with him out there for, 18 to 22 minutes. So I'm really interested in the like X's and O's part of the lineup card mid game. Like, I feel like you're going to see a lot of blending over the next week, 2 weeks, maybe even. And you're going to see a lot of people play with a lot of people. And I know we talked about a little bit off air before. You had mentioned that like center specifically is just going to be a big time revolving door, so that they can fill a lot of those holes and get a bunch of different wingers to play with a bunch of different wingers, so that they don't feel maybe the magnitude of a guy in their presumed top 6 not getting 18, 20, 22 minutes a night. Yeah,
I mean, we talked about Tage Thompson in the Buffalo Sabres game 2 days ago. This guy, he came off a long-term injury. This season, the first 2 periods, he looked rusty. He made some bad turnovers. Like, don't expect, I would be very careful, Red Wings fans, to expect Patrick Kane to step onto the ice and put up 1 goal plus 2 assists. Like, don't expect him to come in rolling. Like, there's going to be an adjustment, I'm sure. So he may not wow you, but if I'm you, I know what I'm doing at least. I'm watching the little stuff to see how much his vision impacts the ice in the offensive zone positively. What can he do in the limited amount of ice time he's going to get? Because like you said, it is going to be a blender. We already know it's going to be a blender of centers. It's going to be probably a blender of wingers too. Like if he's not good to go every single shift, like you might have wingers taking his spot on that second line with a comp for Valeno plus DeBrincat. Like they're going to limit his ice time to make sure he stays healthy and doesn't overexert himself. So the game against the Sharks is going to be interesting for a multitude of reasons, on top of the fact that the Sharks are starting to, turn it on. And we'll talk about that in segment 3. But heading into segment 2, we'll wrap up any conversation that we have regarding Patrick Kane's debut and our excitement towards the potential of what he could bring to this lineup, as well as talk about the Jake Walman fine and why the consistency of the Department of Player Safety is all over the place. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. It's the holiday season. Maybe you're traveling somewhere to celebrate with your family. The last thing you want is to be unprepared to take care of yourself or a loved one if you fall ill. Jase Medical can give you the peace of mind before you ever hop on a flight. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are talking about the Patrick Kane debut that is in T-minus however many hours and minutes it is from you listening to this to the puck drop of the game. Scotty, I pretty much said my piece for the most part on Patrick Kane. Excited that he's going to get his debut. Excited to see what he has to offer, but also understand long-term injury. That may take him a little bit to get into a comfortable game speed position. But despite that, excited nonetheless. I don't know what else, if you have anything else to offer or add on, go for it.
No. I mean, that was pretty much the extent of it. I'm just, again, my biggest thing is just trying to see how they're the easing in process and how they're going to make up for that, especially, if is it going to be more of an even distribution of minutes throughout the night, or I don't know. They don't need any, how do I word this? They already have been struggling in the third, so I would prefer it to not just be like, just like burn yourself out the first half of the game and then we'll do the blender for the second half. I'd prefer maybe we distribute them evenly. But yeah, man, I don't really have too much else. Just very interesting, very exciting. Obviously, we're all really interested in seeing. I think I still have more questions than answers, but some of those will start to be answered tonight. So,
yeah, absolutely. Moving on from there, Jake Walman on Wednesday was fined $2,500, the maximum allowable fine underneath the player agreement, and it was for the cross check to the face of, I believe, Jeff Skinner towards the end of the Buffalo Sabres game. And I mean, there's twofold to this. Like, one, Red Wings have got to stop taking dumbass penalties at the end of games where the game is close and the other team has been pounding you for shot attempts in the last half of the game. That's been a continued problem. But the other thing is, like, and I actually don't disagree with the fine. Like, I've seen the replay. It was dumb. He hit him way too high. Yeah. The fine is fine. But Scotty, my problem comes in is with the inconsistency in which the Department of Player Safety is picking and choosing what plays to review, and even a more surface level, the inconsistency with the refs in what they're calling as penalties and not penalties. And again, I don't have a problem with the cross check. That was a penalty. It deserved a fine. It was a dumb play. I think they technically called it a high sticking because the stick caught him in the face, but he essentially cross checked him in the face. I don't have a problem with that. But when in the last week, I can name you 4 different times in which a Detroit Red Wing has been hit from behind very visibly and no call has been made, I begin to cast my doubt on the seriousness of this league and the seriousness in which they claim player safety. In the last week, Dylan Larkin, Robbie Fabry, Shane Gostisbehere, and Alex DeBrincat have all gotten leveled with their numbers facing out. Just absolutely leveled on the numbers. And each and every one of those has gone without a penalty, without a call. And it's becoming increasingly frustrating as Gossespierre left and did not return in that game. Dylan Larkin left to the locker room for at least, 5-10 minutes of that period before he finally came back. DeBrincat got lucky and Robbie Fabry was okay. But these are situations where
Fabry doesn't need any help in that department.
Fabry does not need any help in that situation. It's getting to a point, it's almost absurd. It's almost comical in that they'll call these ticky-tacky ticky-tacky slashing penalties all over the place because they've been cracking down on slashing the last couple years because a lot of the injuries to people's hands comes off those.
They are way, way aggressive with slashing. If it's anywhere near the hands, you're toast, buddy. It is like night and day different from how it was for so long versus now. I mean, they are really, really going out of their way to try to protect hands.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? They're going out of their way to protect hands, yet the most dangerous hit in hockey.
Right. That's
and I don't know if this is a trend across the league. I don't want to come across as if I'm being whiny, but this is a trend that we've noticed in the last couple of weeks. 4 times off the top of my head, and I have a crap memory, guys, so that's how bad this sticks out. I can list when the Red Wings have been drilled from behind, and they hit against Larkin. He was lucky he wasn't hurt more because that was a charge. The player came in with the pure, the only thing he had planned to do in that instance was hit Larkin from behind, a foot away from the boards. That's a really dangerous hit where injuries can happen. So it's just one of those situations where I'm okay with the fine. I think that was a finable offense on Jake Walman. But when you're letting these other hits not get called for penalties and not even reviewed by the DOPS, I begin to question how serious this league is at player safety because those are the most dangerous hits in hockey.
Yeah, no, I think we've had a few of these conversations, honestly, over the last year or so, but I think it's a tale of don't have as much of an issue with the Walman decision in a vacuum. It is the inconsistency, right? That probably does deserve what it got, but it's just wildly inconsistent with what we've seen across the league. And yeah, I mean, I'm lockstep with you. I think that this is something that really, I mean, for Larkin specifically, dating back 2 or 3 seasons now, right? It's pretty wild, to be honest, how many times Larkin just in the last 2.5, 3 seasons has been pretty blatantly hit from behind and has gotten no call to him. Obviously, that caused a huge injury in his career too, so he's even a little bit more hyper aware and sensitive to it. And it's very frustrating to see the common inconsistencies. And yeah, I mean, when we talk about the NHL's priorities and whatnot, we have had that conversation a lot. I'm not sure anybody really knows, but I do think that when it comes to player safety, I don't want to say it's different rules for everybody. I don't feel like there's a specific team that's just getting away with everything, but it does seem to be wildly inconsistent for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I'm such a huge proponent for player safety. We've talked about things and I've had unpopular takes on when it comes to equipment and where I think the league should head. And that's why it's so frustrating with me because the league claims that it wants to do better by the players. The NHLPA claims it wants to do better by the players, yet these types of hits against the Red Wings have gone largely undisciplined in the last couple of weeks. And I also understand too that reffing is hard. I get that being a referee in the NHL is very hard. It is impossible to catch every single thing that happens at every single moment. So regardless of how good a referee could be, there's going to be a play or two every single game that gets missed and fans are going to be upset. But that's where you're supposed to have the safety net of the disciplinary committee, the DOPS, right? That is supposed to see the things that the referees miss and then levy out penalties after the fact, try and say you got away with it in the game, but you shouldn't have. And this is another instance where this is a failure on the Red Wings' behalf. What is it going to take for the Red Wings to finally, get this call? Is it going to take for a really bad injury? And I'm not trying to also imply that the referees, by not calling this, more and more players are like, oh, I can get away with this. Let me just level it. I get that. In most instances, players aren't even trying to do this. I mean, the one against Larkin, the game of Sabres, definitely felt intentional. A lot of times, though, these players are trying to make plays. And in cases like maybe Fabry against the Sabres as well, they turn at the last minute. But that's why your job as a league and as a referee is to police that. Because even if it is accidental, it's still dangerous. So I'm just frustrated with the inconsistency. I'm fine, like you said, Scotty, in a vacuum with the call against Jake Walman, but you have got to be consistent across the board with the dishing out of these penalties, of these fines in a sport where one hit can end a career. I'm just very frustrated with the inconsistency against the Red Wings in the last couple of weeks when in terms of these non-boarding calls.
Agreed.
So, we're going to head to segment 3 now. And when we return, we're going to preview the game against the San Jose Sharks and why maybe you guys shouldn't take them as lightly as some of you may be. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Segment 3, a Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, let's move on now to talking about the game against the San Jose Sharks tonight. We already told you guys Patrick Kane will be debuting. We kind of broke down what our expectations for him will be in this game. But also, Ville Husso will be in net. That was also confirmed by confirmed by Derek Lalonde for this game ahead of the game rather. But the San Jose Sharks are a very bad hockey team, Scotty. Worst in the league by a long shot. 7 wins, 17 losses, 2 overtime losses, 8th in the Pacific Division. They don't even have 20 points on the season yet. Their top scorer is Thomas Hertl, who has 21 points in 25 games played. And their goaltending situation, not through any fault of their own, let's be honest. Like, there's only so much that Blackwood, Kakkonen could do with that team in front of them. But .899 save percentage and .896 save percentage for those two goalies individually. This team is bad. So this is a win that the Red Wings need to have. They cannot go in and take this team lightly, however, because this season, the Red Wings largely have taken care of business against the teams that they should be taking care of business, which has been really nice to see. And honestly, a nice change of pace over previous years.
Yeah.
But in previous years, we've seen teams that the Red Wings should beat up on have come in and beat the crap out of the Red Wings instead. So let's avoid that. Let's go and take care of business tonight against the San Jose Sharks.
Agreed. Yeah, the Sharks are... You want to guess the Sharks' record in their last 10 games?
Oh, I know in their last 6.
What's their last 6?
3-3.
In the last 10, they're 5-4-1.
Wow.
So there you go.
I wonder if any of those losses were overtime losses that I'm looking at.
Let's see.
I'm sorry. In their last 6, they're 4-2. That's my bad.
Yeah, they're 4-2. They had an overtime win against the Islanders, the Devils, the Capitals, and the Canucks, and then losses to the Bruins, and then only a 1-goal loss to the Rangers. So, not playing awful hockey the last 6 games. But I mean, I'm not trying to throw out an excuse or anything. You should absolutely beat this team. There's nothing stopping you from beating this team. Yeah, I mean, the Sharks are 32nd in goals for, 32nd in goals against, 32nd in goal differential, 21st on the power play, 31st in penalty kill, 22nd in save percentage, 21st in penalty minutes. They are consistently bottom 10, and in maybe the 2 most important just counting stats, goals for and goals against, they are dead last in both.
Yeah, I mean, they're dead last in the league at 5-on-5
they're
shot attempts.
2 goals a game.
Yeah. They're dead last in 5-on-5 shot attempts, dead last in 5-on-5 unblocked shot attempts, and dead last in quality shot attempts, all at 5-on-5. And as you put it, the counting stats, they're at the bottom as well. This is, like I said, a bad hockey team. And if you want to go, okay, so you said that, what was the record? 5-4-1 in the last 10?
5-4-1 in the last 10.
You filtered those stats by the last 10, and it's really not that much better. Instead, they're second to last in shot attempts at 5-on-5.
Hey.
They're second to last in unblocked shot attempts at 5-on-5, and they're still dead last at quality shot attempts at 5-on-5. So this is a team that's definitely picked up, but at 5-on-5, they're still really bad. I believe their power play is ranked, 21st in the league, and their penalty kill is 31st in the league. So their power play is doing a little bit of the heavy lifting recently, keeping them in hockey games. They're playing better hockey as of late, which is why I led off the tease for segment 3 of maybe don't take them so much for granted as maybe you previously were going to, because they've been playing better hockey. But at the same time, they're still not good, and you're still better than them. Don't go out there and take it easy. Essentially.
Yeah, they aren't the team that, took like a month to win a game or whatever and was losing 10-0 every night. Like they're not that bad. They haven't been that bad in the last 10 games for sure. But there is nothing that we can say, that we will say, that we should say that would prevent anybody from being unbelievably disappointed if the Red Wings lost this game. And that's really all that it comes down to. Like stats, numbers, whatever out the window, there is pretty much no justification from the Wings' perspective, at home especially, to lose this hockey game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Like they've gone from maybe the worst hockey team to have ever been iced to now just a really bad hockey team.
To now just the worst in the NHL this year.
Yeah.
So it's still bad.
It's still pretty bad. But again, those are the teams that'll sting you. Those are the teams that you take too lightly going out there and hitting the ice. You think this will be a cakewalk, and then they beat you in overtime and mount a huge comeback. Look at the Islanders. Or you barely eke out a win. Look at the Rangers. Or they blow you out 6-3 at home. Look at the Devils. I mean, you just got to go out there fully expecting that this team's going to try and play up to their competition. A lot like the Blackhawks game, a lot like the Canadiens game, and a lot like the Sabres game. Like, you got to imagine that just because these teams are maybe down there in the standings, that they're not going to still try hard. So you got to go out there and be ready. If you're the Red Wings, you go out and get your fast start, you punch them in the mouth again, and maybe try and play a complete 60 minutes and not blow the lead at the end of the game. I know. But, I mean, again, really bad penalty kill that the Sharks have. I think 31st in the league is last I checked. So if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan, this is a great opportunity to get your power play more reps and get your power play more goals. You're still, I believe, top 10 in the league in that regard as well. Another goal against the Buffalo Sabres. It wasn't the best power play showing. That's the thing, is right. The power play is converting, but I feel like I'm watching it and I go, it's kind of crazy that they're converting because they're really still struggling to set up in the offensive zone, and they're passing a lot, but not getting a lot of shots off. This is a good opportunity for you to take advantage of that, kind of like you did against the Wild, who also had a really bad penalty kill. So again, I'm not trying to say like this is just a practice game for the Red Wings, because every 2 points matter in an Atlantic division that's this thick. Like, you're in second place right now as of recording this on Wednesday before any pucks have dropped. But that can change so quickly. So 2 points against the Sharks are still pretty dang important.
Yeah, man, I mean, in a win here, you'd be, I think, 8-2 straight up in your last 10.
You sure it wouldn't be 7 wins in your last 6?
7 in your last 6, ladies and gents. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure right now we're 7-2-1, and I believe that one was like currently 10 games ago, so that would get filtered out. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you'd be 8-2 in your last 10 if you were to win this. That would be really great again. And then after this game, you have, I know that they haven't been, they got off to their, trademarked slow start as the Sens do every year, but like that's a team that every time you play them, it's high intensity and anything can happen. It's like a college football rivalry game. Like, you throw kind of like record out the window, like anything can happen this game. That's what you got after San Jose. It would be really nice to be going into that game 8-2 in your last 10, winning whatever it is, 5 or 6 in a row at that point, or 3 or 4 in a row. That would be really, really nice, especially then. If you're in control of the game, maybe you give Patrick Kane some more opportunities as well against the Sharks, right? If it's a comfortable game where you're, confident with where you're at, you got a couple goal cushion, Defense is doing well. Like maybe that gives you a little bit longer of a leash for him. Let's just take care of business.
Let's just take care of business.
Take care of business.
Let's do it. All right, Scotty. You got any final thoughts for this episode?
We ball, baby.
This is the cleanest episode we've had in terms of like structure, and we're coming in right under 30 if I end it right about here. So same time, same place. It's your team every day.